The air in Grandpa Ned's dining room crackled with tension thick enough to cut with the carving knife still trembling in his weathered hand. For 63 years, Ned Morrison had commanded respect without raising his voice. He'd built Morrison and Sons Construction from a single pickup truck into a regional empire, raised 4 children through Depression-era hardships his grandchildren couldn't fathom, and buried a wife he'd loved for 42 years. His spine remained straight as rebar, his handshake firm enough to make younger men wince, and his word was still gospel in 3 counties. But standing in his own dining room this Thanksgiving evening, with 27 members of his family frozen in horror around the table he'd crafted with his own hands, Ned Morrison heard words he never thought would be directed at him. "Apologize to my wife or get out of my house." The words came from David, his youngest grandson. The boy, though he was 32 now, married 3 years, stood with his face flushed crimson, finger pointed at Ned like a prosecutor delivering an indictment. The grandfather clock in the hallway ticked through the silence. Ned's daughter Patricia gasped. His son Michael dropped his fork with a clatter. Little Emma, only 5, started to cry softly in her mother's arms. Ned set down the carving knife with deliberate precision beside the 23-pound turkey he'd been about to serve. His blue eyes, still sharp despite his 78 years, swept across the scene, taking inventory like he'd done on construction sites for half a century. David stood rigid, his wife Jennifer tucked protectively under his arm, tears streaming down her face. The rest of the family sat scattered around the extended table, some with mouths agape, others staring at their plates, a few glancing nervously between the 2 men like spectators at a tennis match nobody wanted to watch. "Your house," Ned's voice came out quiet, almost gentle. Those who knew him best recognized the danger in that tone. His son Michael, sitting closest, actually leaned back in his chair. "You heard me," David said, though his voice wavered slightly. "This stopped being just your house when Jennifer and I moved in to help take care of you." A bitter laugh escaped from someone, Ned's oldest grandchild, Marcus, who immediately looked like he regretted it. "David," Patricia stood, her napkin falling to the floor. "For God's sake, this is Thanksgiving." "Sit down, Patricia." Ned didn't look at his daughter. His eyes remained locked on David. "The boy wants to have this conversation in front of everyone, so we'll have it." Jennifer's tears fell harder. She tugged at David's sleeve. "David, please, let's just go." "No," David's jaw set with a stubbornness Ned recognized because he'd seen it in the mirror for 8 decades. "He needs to apologize for what he said to you. I won't have my wife disrespected in her own home." "Her home?" Ned's eyebrows rose. "Interesting. And what exactly did I say that requires this apology?" The room held its breath. "You know what you said," David's voice rose. "You told her that her green bean casserole was an insult to real cooking, and that she wouldn't know a proper Thanksgiving dinner if it hit her in the face." "David," Jennifer's mortification was evident, "you're making it sound worse." "Those were his exact words," David insisted. "I heard him, and before that last week, you told her that her career as a social media consultant wasn't a real job and that she should focus on learning to be a proper wife." Murmurs rippled around the table. Ned's daughter-in-law Grace exchanged a meaningful look with Patricia. Ned stood silent for a long moment, his calloused hands resting on the table. Then he pulled out his chair and sat down heavily. The chair groaned under his weight, not because he was particularly large, but because even the furniture seemed to acknowledge the gravity of the moment. "You're right," he said finally. The room went even quieter, if that was possible. "I said those things, and they were cruel." Ned looked directly at Jennifer, whose eyes widened in shock. "Jennifer, I apologize. My words were unkind and unnecessary. You didn't deserve them." David's righteous anger seemed to deflate slightly. He clearly hadn't expected capitulation. "However," Ned continued, his voice taking on the steel that had negotiated 1,000 construction contracts, "we're going to address some other truths while we're at it, since we're doing this in front of God and everybody." Michael groaned, "Dad, don't." David, Ned interrupted. You want to talk about disrespect? Let's talk about it. How long have you and Jennifer been living here? 18 months, David said defensively. We moved in to help you after your hip surgery. I recovered from that surgery in 6 weeks, Ned cut him off. Doctor cleared me fully 4 months after. It's been 14 months since then. You're still here. Jennifer's face went pale. We pay rent, David protested. You pay $400 a month for a 3-bedroom suite with a private entrance in a house worth $800,000. Ned's business mind rattled off numbers like an accountant. Market rate for that space would be $2,200. You're saving $1,800 a month. For 14 months, that's over $25,000. Patricia covered her face with her hands. Marcus had pulled out his phone and was apparently fact-checking the math, nodding slowly. Jennifer, Ned turned to her, his voice softening. I was rude about your casserole. It was petty and mean. But do you know why it bothered me? She shook her head, tears still flowing. Because you used canned soup and fried onions from a bag, Ned said. Which is fine, plenty of people do. But you told me yesterday that you and David couldn't afford to contribute to the grocery bill for this dinner. Said money was tight. Then you pulled up in a new Audi this morning. The silence became uncomfortable. It's laced, David said weakly. For $647 a month, according to the paperwork I saw on the counter, Ned replied, plus insurance. While you're telling your grandfather you can't chip in $50 for Thanksgiving groceries. Jennifer had stopped crying. She was staring at her plate. And the social media consultant comment, Ned continued, looking at Jennifer with something that might have been sympathy. You're talented, I've seen your work, but you've had 3 clients in 18 months, and you've netted maybe $4,000 total. I didn't say it wasn't a real job. I said you needed to treat it like one, invest in it, build it, or supplement it with something stable while you grow it. That's business advice, not an attack on your character. You said she should be a proper wife, David said, but his voice had lost its conviction. I said she should be a partner to you, Ned corrected, and you should be one to her. Real partnerships aren't about who does the dishes or who makes more money. They're about pulling together in the same direction. And from where I sit, you two are pulling in opposite directions while living off my generosity and expecting gratitude for it. The words hung in the air like smoke. Grace, Michael's wife, spoke up for the first time. Ned, maybe this isn't the time. It's exactly the time, Ned said firmly but not unkindly. Because I'm 78 years old and I don't have time to tiptoe around hard truths. Your grandmother, his voice caught slightly, the first crack in his composure, your grandmother taught me that love without honesty is just politeness, and I loved that woman enough to be honest with her even when it hurt. He turned back to David and Jennifer. I love you both, which is why I'm going to say this. You moved in here claiming it was to help me, but I'm not the one being helped. You are, and that's okay, family helps family, but don't dress up charity as duty and then get angry when I point out that the emperor has no clothes. David's hand found Jennifer's. For the first time, they looked less like righteous crusaders and more like the young, struggling couple they actually were. Grandpa, David's voice was small now, the angry prosecutor replaced by the grandson Ned had taught to fish 25 years ago. We thought we were contributing, being here for you. You are here, Ned acknowledged, but being present isn't the same as being helpful. I don't need you to live here. I need you to build your own lives. I need you to struggle and succeed on your own terms. That's not abandonment. That's what grandparents want for their grandchildren. Jennifer finally spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. I'm sorry about the casserole comment. I know it was lazy. I've been so stressed about money and I took a shortcut. Then tell me you're stressed, Ned said. Tell me you need help. Don't serve me processed food and tell me it's gourmet, then get offended when I notice. I was a construction worker, not a fool. A small laugh escaped from someone, breaking the tension slightly. Ned stood again, slower this time, his age showing. I was cruel in how I said things, I apologize for that, but I won't apologize for the truth. And the truth is this, you're welcome in my home, you always will be, But if you're going to demand apologies while standing in a house you don't pay for, driving a car you can't afford, and claiming a moral high ground you haven't earned, then yes, maybe it is time to get out." The silence stretched. Then Jennifer stood. She walked around the table to where Ned stood, and to everyone's surprise, hugged him. The old man stiffened for a moment, then his arms came up to return the embrace. "You're right," she said into his shoulder. "About all of it, I'm sorry." David stood too, looking at his grandfather with something between shame and gratitude. "I shouldn't have yelled at you like that, especially not here, not today." Ned nodded. "You were defending your wife. I respect that, even if your execution was poor." A slight smile tugged at his weathered face. "But son, if you're going to make grand pronouncements, make sure you're standing on solid ground first." The tension in the room finally broke. Patricia stood and started gathering serving dishes. Marcus helped. Grace began organizing the children to wash hands. The family, resilient in the way families are, began to reassemble itself. As David and Jennifer moved to help, Ned called out, "David, Jennifer, sit down. You're my guests today." They hesitated. "Next week," Ned continued, carving the turkey with renewed purpose, "we'll talk about budgets and timelines. We'll figure out a real plan for you too. But today we are family, and family eats together, argues together, and forgives together." He placed the first perfectly carved slice of turkey on a plate and handed it to Jennifer. "Try the dressing, my wife's recipe. The real thing takes time, but it's worth it." Jennifer took the plate with a watery smile. "Will you teach me?" "Will you listen when I'm cranky about it?" Ned asked. "Probably not," she admitted. The old man's laugh filled the room, deep and genuine. "Then you'll fit right into this family." As plates were passed and conversations resumed, Ned caught his daughter Patricia's eye. She mouthed, "Thank you," across the table. He nodded slightly, then returned to his carving. Because that's what patriarchs did. They carved the turkey, told hard truths, apologized when wrong, and held the family together even when it threatened to break apart. And somewhere, Ned was certain, his wife was shaking her head at the whole dramatic scene and smiling anyway.